Rest Risings, or this afternoon, I kind of want to read something. I was on my page talking about Dan, so I kind of wanted to hit on some stuff dealing with Dan and just get some insight. I guess it's pretty interesting to me. Now, the Book of Aki is an interesting book of remembrance. So I'm on 1 Aki 3:76, and it says, "Now it came to pass, Israel used Joseph 2 times before the altar, and would not suffer Dan to step forward and become an element of righteousness. And Israel had beheld that Dan would choose the lying visions of Shamahazah. Shamahazah basically was the fallen, and be like unto a poisonous serpent. Wherefore, because of the song of Eve, the altar could only be used in relation to Yahuwah having all things according to his will, or the master having all things according to his will, in that it was likened unto a mild and harmless serpent. And it was Dan who conspired to kill Joseph. And he was the one who had killed the kid and soaked the coat in blood to be taken to their father. Now that's that Dan. Dan was a pretty interesting dude. I'm like, you read through this thing, and there's so much on Dan. I'm gonna read a little bit more. Let me see. I'm gonna go over here to 1 Aki 391. And Aki beheld, and the false law did not bring peace during the entire course of the earth. And Israel, establishing the meaning of virtue among the peoples and in the families, and the master said to Aki, "You will see that because of this man, I am able to be before my father and in behalf of all men, and in behalf of all men, the definition of all human virtue for all eternity, and that the virtue that I accomplished during my walk in the flesh by keeping the law will be standard of virtue against which all men will be judged. And there is much yet to be revealed unto you regarding this matter. Now it came to pass that the master opened up to Aki the rest of the 24 high priest communities, and the vision is long, but this is an account of it, for it too beheld it all before the Urim. And it came to pass that Aki looked again, and he saw Dan was angered, and he was a man of great temper, and he interrupted the worship of Israel before the altar of the master, and declared that he was humiliated before his brethren, for Joseph to be used as the element of righteousness in his stead. And he left from before the altar in the midst of the prayers of his father, which thing is an abomination before the master. And it came to pass that when the ceremony was completed, Israel unfolded unto his sons all of his vision before the rock of witness. And he told them he had called the fourth Jeshurun and the law of virtue to come forth among them and their children, so they could be a holy nation before the master. And he rehearsed unto them that it was the plan of Shamahazah to break them up and scatter them abroad, to prevent Messiah from being born among the people of a holy nation. And many things did their father exhort unto them before the altar. And he called Dan unto repentance, and beseeched him to cling unto the vision of his created purpose, and that by doing this he may find happiness, to be numbered with his children among the people of the holy nation. But Dan would not. And it came to pass in the days that followed that contention grew among the brethren of Joseph, insomuch that their father found a need to send them away upon far pastures to tend the flocks. But Joseph and Benjamin he kept by his side. And Israel prayed for forgiveness before the master, and he feared that he had sinned. For in his vision he had seen 12 faces, but he had only used 11 sons as the element of righteousness, and thus he grieved. Supposing he was the cause of so great contention among his son, and the woman of his household mourned with him, and Bilhah, the mother of Dan, refused to be comforted. And it came to pass that Israel prayed for Yahuwah to forgive him. And the master spoke to him and told him to be comforted. And Israel could see that his use of element had been pleasing unto the master, and the master forbids jealousy and sin to come before the altar. And thus Dan was rightly held back. And Akish said that Adam held back in like manner and did not use Cain when Jeshurun was first called forth. And that same night, Joseph dreamed a dream, and in the dream, the master rehearsed unto him all the visions of his father, and told him that if his brethren did not repent to revere righteousness, if Dan did not turn to embrace the vision of the created purpose, Shamahiza may be empowered to destroy the vision and purpose of a holy nation into which Messiah could be born. And it would come to pass that Joseph would rule over his brethren, and many of the children of his father would be scattered abroad. And when his brethren returned from their flocks, he told them to the dream, and contention grew among them. And Joseph repented before the master for having dreamed the dream. And beheld, that night he dreamed a dream the second time like unto it. And when he rehearsed it unto his father, Israel began to fear for his son. Should it come again unto the ears of his brethren? So he sent them away again, and this time unto a far pasture for the season. But Joseph and Benjamin he kept by his side. And thus it was this way that their father dwelt through the season of pasture, and they stood in danger of brigands with their men in far pastures. And it came to pass, when the men returned home, the contention seemed to have passed, and Israel was comforted. And when their season of pasture came again, the sons of Israel were desirous to return unto the far pastures, and there was much grass there and water, and they remained again for the season. And it came to pass that Israel began to be lonesome for his sons, and it seemed that they delayed their return at the end of the season of pasture. So he sent Joseph out to seek after their welfare. And Joseph arrived to the place where they were. His brethren beheld him approaching, and they knew him by his coat of many colors. And Dan rose up in anger and prepared to meet his brother to slay him, for he supposed he approached to act as their overseer. But Reuben, the builder of the family of the master, could not bear such violence upon the beloved of his father, and he restrained him. And his brethren went out to meet him, and took hold of him, and cast him into a pit to protect him from the hand of Dan. And it came to pass that Yehuda and Naphtali persuaded some of their brethren to take Dan with them to water the sheep. And they gave their word that they would take care to see that Joseph would not be there upon their return. Now Dan was content, for he supposed they meant to kill him in his absence. But while he was away, Yehuda and Naphtali espied a caravan approaching, and determined to sell Joseph, and later go and buy him back into their father as soon as the anger of Dan passed. And it came to pass that they lifted Joseph out of the pit, and as they bound him, Joseph exclaimed, "What is that you do?" And Yehuda said, "We must sell you to save your life." And Joseph looked into the eyes of Yehuda and cried, "What are the vision of our father of a holy nation?" And the thing pierced the heart of Yehuda. And they sold Joseph. And it came to pass, when Dan and his brethren returned, and discovered that Joseph had been sold instead of slain, Dan was wroth, and he declared that if any man should make this thing known unto their father, he would be slain. And the anger of Dan was great, and they all gave him their word, and they would never disclose unto their father that Joseph was sold. And it came to pass that Dan took a kid and killed it in his fury, and he rent the coat of many colors, and put the blood upon it in anger, and required that they deliver it unto their father. And the coat of many colors that was used before the altar as an element of righteousness to show forth the surety of the birth of Messiah among their people became the mark of their word to lie and to not disclose the truth. And thus Dan became content, and he knew that should his father come to know concerning the matter, he would be compelled to also journey with all his brethren into the land of the far country to search of Joseph. And Dan was also bitter, since Reuben would get the inheritance after the manner of Methuselah, and it would profit him nothing to proceed into a strange land. And thus was Joseph taken bound into the land of a far country, and he was handled like unto one of the cattle, having no hope of rescue. So I'm gonna just stop right there. But I have been mentioning about Dahomey. You can look it up on Britannica, Encyclopedia Britannica, as well as, I know people don't like Wikipedia, but it's on there too. But it shows that the Dahomey, the House of Dan or House of Da, basically had issues with Wida, which is Judah or Yahuda, and they fought with them. And whenever they conquered them, they would sell them off to strangers. And that's often what occurred during the transatlantic slave trade. You can see that continued all the way through all that time period. They were constantly at battle with Yahuda. And if you go back to Genesis 49, I think it's 49 or 50, you'll see that Dan, when he got his blessing, he was called a serpent. And so the serpent people, the house of Dan, they had women warriors. So just like how on Black Panther you have the women warriors, that's where the Amazons and everything come from. They were known to have women fighting forces, and then a lot of times they were known to be short in posture as well. So the Twa people, or the Akan, are akin or connected to Dahomey. Now, when you look at Ireland, you'll find out, if you can. I put some information on the book that the Akan people were seen to be found in Ireland, and it's always we've been told that Saint Patrick ran the snakes up out of Ireland, and then leprechauns. If you know anything about Ethiopia had gold like crazy. So in Africa, it's so much gold in a lot of that area, and they never really seen it as this wealthy thing. And it just was a material. So a lot of people they had gold all over them. That was regular. So the con people, hey, you grab up a short person covered in gold, you got you a pot of gold. You grabbed you a leprechaun. But they tell us so many different stories, but they don't give it clarity, and we never ask questions. We basically take these as just stories and not realize that they have some basis and some connection to our actual history. We don't trust anything that anyone looks like us tells us. We only go by what they tell us, and so they tell us stories that make them look like a better light. That makes them look good. They never tell anything that makes them look negative. They call us savages, they call us beasts, but they'll never show. Like if you go back with the Moors, that most people realize that the Moors, the Blackamoors, the first Moors, the Moors were a dark people, went into Europe. Europe was dying of the Black Plague, as they said, but those people lived among their feces. They basically took a dump where they ate and where they lived and slept. And so they had poor hygiene, so they slept among that stuff, and a lot of times it caused them sickness, and they would die off of it. And so with that, With that happening, they would be sick off of it. That's why the Moors came in there and showed them how to do plumbing. They taught them how to get their waste away from them and how to eat better. They even showed them deodorant and how to perfume themselves, how to cleanse themselves. It was the Moors that taught the early Caucasians this. So for them to make like that that melanated people were ignorant or crazy, it makes no sense. Making them as savages when they were the ones living amongst their animals, having animals lick on their wounds and stuff like that. That was them. That wasn't us. That was them. And it was educated men that looked like us that taught them different and taught them better. But I just want to share this little brief, you know, hey, it'd be good if people start just, no, don't just listen to what I say. Go research it yourself. And Snopes and Reuters is not viable, not at all. Those people that own that are your enemies. So they're not going to tell you anything that benefits you. They're not. So you can go look older books. If you can go to a library, which most libraries are closed, if you have encyclopedias in your home, you can pick those books up a lot of times, and they have this information in there. It's just that nobody seems to want to grab those things. You can look up the Akans. You can look up the Twa people. You can look up Dahomey. You can look up WYDA, WHYDAH. Look it up. A lot of that stuff is there. Even Negro land is spoken of in some of these old encyclopedias, but we didn't know about it until just recently. Look it up. All right. Blessings and shalom.